Everybody, let's go. It's go time. It's time to go ahead and to get started. So first of all, good morning and welcome back. I would like to apologize from the very bottom of my heart for scheduling this on a Monday morning. I'll be honest, I wasn't thinking clearly. I don't know, maybe I had allergy medication or something. I don't know why I scheduled on Monday morning. It's like the absolute worst time for me, but here we are. And from the looks of it, it looks like there's 47 or 46 other people on here besides yourself. So congratulations. You've already accomplished more in a couple of hours than I feel like I'm going to accomplish for this entire day. So today's session, we are going to talk about payroll and specifically the steps 1 through 9. So the reason this kind of came up is when we started looking at what we want to do for these future mini sessions and these future webinars, is we kind of want to dig into a little more depth into areas of the program that you have been in before, maybe not have a total amount of clarity as to what is actually going on or what the system is actually doing for you. So we wanted to go back and we want to kind of go through these payroll processing steps because they are deceptively easy to look at. Like, oh, there's 9 buttons, you click on 9 buttons and then you're done. And payroll is magically posted and everyone magically gets paid correctly and everything works just the way it should. So we're going back and we're going to dig in a little bit deeper to these steps and we're going to walk through exactly what the system is doing so that you can have a better idea as we start laying foundation, as we continue laying the foundation for the steps that are going to come along further. So think of this as the very first step in our little payroll guide. That being said, I'm going to try desperately not to dig too deeply into some of these steps because a lot of these things you could really go down the rabbit hole on. For example, you get into like leave plans, then you start talking about leave plan setup and you talk about, the earned pay, sick time and things like that. I am not going to go into all of those things in detail today. We'll touch on things here and there, but I'm trying to pull it out to more of like not a 10,000 foot level, more like a 100-foot level, where we have a little more understanding of what's happening without diving full on into how you set up master deductions and assign those deductions to employees type of thing. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen for a moment here. Yeah, find the share screen button. All right, so everyone should be able to see my infinite vision screen, correct? Just nod your head. Yes, all right, perfect. Thank you, Jeff. All right, so in payroll processing, I'm just going to jump right into it. We're going to run right into payroll processing and under process payroll. All right. So the first thing I see is, got an Outlook reminder, can dismiss that. Yes, I am already here. All right. So the first thing I see, I'm logging in and it's showing me the last pay period that I ran for it, which was pay period 18. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to change this to pay period 19, which is the one I'm currently working on. And then I'm going to set it as pay period default. Even if it's an off-cycle pay period, or it was like those one-off supplementals where you're running or you miss somebody's check, make sure that you always click that button to set the pay period default. And the reason for that is when you set that pay period default, it automatically sets all your reports to come up for that pay period. It automatically sets your deduction voucher pay dates to come up for that information. Everything is automatically set for you. So you was like, oh, I'm just going to run through here really quick. I don't want to bother. Take the time, click the button. It will, I'm not going to say it's save your life, but it'll save you a lot of headache at some point because at one point you're going to miss it. All right. So I'm going to do set pay period default. You can see it did a whole lot of nothing other than nothing. Coming into the screen, my basic 9 steps. Used to be if you're an old school Infinite Visions user, you go up to actions and you run through each of these 9 steps. If you're more recent or the new school, you can actually click the buttons over here to the side of these 9 steps. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on hours entry. And this is one of those steps. This is the main step that I would say that you could probably get by without clicking if the system did not force you to click those items. It doesn't do anything special other than take you to the employee time card entry screen. If you've already imported your time cards and you've already done all that stuff, or you've imported them from like Time Clock Plus or Kronos or Frontline or whatever you happen to be using, or even if you went in there manually and you keyed in the hours entry, you're not required to do anything in here. However, this is a good point in time where you kind of want to just make sure that all your ducks are in a row. So I'm going to go open up time card entry, and it's going to default to my time card actual people for the pay period that I happen to have set for my pay period default. So I'm going to go ahead and click apply selection. And here's my time cards for everybody. And everybody looks fine. Let's say whether I imported them or I manually changed anything, I can drill into any one of these if I want to. So let's say this person here. If I need to change anything, you guys are all well aware. You can come in here and you can put in those regular hours, you put in overtime units. It will automatically calculate overtime. There's a setting for that, but it's default to 1.5, which is going to be your standard setting. So most of the time you don't need to worry about. So I'll just say, let's put 1 hour overtime in here. It automatically calculates that for me. Click OK. There's not a whole lot to do in there. You guys are pretty used to that. One thing I would recommend is that once you're done entering time, or even if you've imported time, the system automatically does this for you. But if you're manually keying in time, what we highly recommend is to go in there and lock the records for those time card employees. So I'm going to go up to actions, and there's an option on here that says lock records. So I'm going to click on that. Records marked as locked, and we can see over here on the right-hand side, it has marked all of these time card records as locked. Now, what does this do? First, a couple things. If you are working with multiple people within your payroll office, it will tell other people that you've already done this person, or you've already imported, or you reviewed their times, you keyed it in, you've locked their time card. If you're importing hours from a system, it will automatically lock these time cards for you. What it will do is it will keep you from accidentally changing a person's pay after you've already imported their time card for this period. For example, this Sarah Bellum here. So I imported her time, I locked her time cards, and then I realized, oh, maybe I should have taken another look at her position, or should have changed the funding on her position, or she got a 2% raise or something like that. If you go into her position, and no matter what I did in there, because her time card is locked in here, it will not let me change anything that will affect her pay. It will let me change it in her position, but if I go look at her pay, it will not affect her pay at all, because I've already locked her time card for this particular pay period. So that is the first thing we look at. If someone calls in and says, yeah, I'm working on this position and I can't get it to update in the payroll journal. Well, that's because you've already locked her time card, and your system will not let you regenerate her pay for that period until you've unlocked it. So I'm going to unlock these time cards really quick. The other option in here that might be very useful is under actions, there's an option to 0 units on unlocked records. So if you are importing everybody, or you want to make sure you don't accidentally pay somebody that shouldn't be paid, you come in here. If you 0 the hours on the unlocked records, it will 0 out everybody's hours for this particular pay period. And they will not get paid unless you hand key that time in there, or you import that time from a pay system. So that's another useful thing. Can't tell you if it may work for you or if it may not work for you. If you're in a small situation, like maybe in like an off cycle or supplemental pay type situation, it could be very handy to have that around. That way you're not making sure that you're only paying those people that actually work that pay period. So for this is actually a full payroll. So I'm just going to go ahead and lock my records here. My records is locked. While I'm in here, I do kind of want to show you this, because every once in a while, and I'll be honest, I don't go into infinite visions every day anymore like I used to. Every once in a while, I run across something. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So if I click, I'm going to click Albino here, who happens to be works in the kitchen. And if I go to shortcuts, there is an option for a specific employee leave plan. So if an employee was taking leave, or if I knew they had taken leave and I don't see that information in here, or I don't see it affecting their time card, I can highlight my employee. I'll click on employees or specific employee leave plan. And it will take me to all the leave plans for this particular employee, and will show me, if I can drill in here, will actually allow me to drill into the employee's leave plan. So if I see a time card in here, I'm like, that doesn't look right. I thought they took leave, or I thought they were going to end up with not enough time on their time card. It will allow me to drill in here and kind of see this thing right for that particular employee. So I don't need to exit out and go back in somewhere. So I just thought that was a neat little feature that I kind of stumbled across the other day. Time card entry, pretty cut and dry. Like I said, by the time you get to the step in payroll processing, you really should have had it done already. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. All right, moving on to the next step. Step number 2 is for accruing leave. Now, the next 2 steps I'm going to spend a little more time to talk about. So when accruing leave, if I click this button, it's going to go through all of the employees who should be getting leave for this particular pay period, and it's going to go ahead and put in the leave transaction for them. And it says here, my leave has been processed. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And it's going to be done. So if I go into an employee and I'll go into employee leave plans. And let's pull up Crystal Ball, who is definitely one of our favorite employees that we like picking on. And the funny thing is, the names were totally assigned at random, but for some reason, we always end up with Crystal Ball being the one we want to pick on. That's just how training databases work. So if I scroll down the list here, I'm going to see her accrual for pay period 19 is already in here with the dates of the pay period, and the granted date is going to be on the pay period end date for that period. So that's where we're going to see all the accrual records in here. Now, by default, it really only allows you to accrue once. So if I have to reset steps and do the whole thing over again and just hit the leave accrual button, it's not going to reaccrue everybody unless I delete it in the first place. But this is where it does going to put those leave accruals in there. And you see that they're all sort of named the same. So if you're going into, you're looking by transaction detail for all the employee leave plans, you can see everybody who accrued on this because they're all going to have this exact same reason on there. I'll close out of employee leave plans. Okay, go back into process payroll. Next is my second favorite one, calculate employee leave docking. Now, if I click on the employee leave docking, what this is going to do is that any employees who have a negative balance of time on a dockable leave plan, it will try and subtract hours and subtract pay from that person. Now, this kind of runs hand in hand with the accrue leave step. And depending on what district you're at and what the policy as at your district, the system default is to accrue leave and then dock after that. Some districts will do it the opposite way. Well, they will dock first and then accrue leave. So where does that become important? So if you are on a leave plan, say you accrue an hour every 2 weeks. You accrue an hour every 2 weeks of leave. But going into that ending of the pay period, you're at a negative balance of -2 hours. The way the system is set up right now, it's going to accrue the time here. You'll accrue an hour, and then it will dock anything that you have negative. So in this case, it's going to be 1 hour because you accrued an hour, and then you have a balance of -1. So it's going to dock you an hour. Some district policy is the other way around, where it's like, nope, you're going to owe us 2 hours up front, and then we'll accrue an hour after that. It's interesting is because there's actually an easy way to change the order in which these steps happen. So I'm going to pop in there really quick, just to kind of show you where that is. In payroll, under payroll, I'm sorry, not under payroll processing, under configuration, payroll default settings. And if I go to the advanced tab on payroll default settings, there is an option in here right in the middle. There's a little checkbox here that says accrue leave after docking. So what this will do is this will actually flip those steps around. So you dock first and then accrue leave. So most people will see accrue leave second and then docking. Some people will see it the other way around. So this is how you change that. If you're going to change it, it's going to affect everybody. So if your district says, no, dock that person first, well, then you have to go back to your policy. Like, is it in our policy that we dock first before accruing or the other way around? Don't change it for one person. We have seen instances where people try to change, well, this person, we don't like this person for some reason, or they're real, they're not what I would consider the ideal employee. So what we're going to try to do is some almost like a punitive actions, like we're going to dock them first and then accrue. You either do it for everybody or you just leave it alone. So that's where that change is made. We'll go back into process payroll. So I'm going to calculate my employee leave docking. Go ahead and click my button here. And it'll go through it. It's going to show me those employees with a negative balance. Now it doesn't do anything in here. This right now this is just informational information. So I'm going to go into, let's say, Chipstone, and he has a balance of negative 47 in here. I believe that's hours for this position. Yes. All right. So there's a balance of negative 47. And what it's going to do is going to actually calculate the docking rate based off whatever plan the employee has a leave factor on. So if whatever position the employee has a leave factor on. So if an employee has multiple positions, this is why we say really just put their main position, put the leave factor on the main position. If you start adding on those supplemental positions, like, I don't know, like 301 payouts or other stipends and things like that, what the system will try to do, if you have a leave factor on there, it will actually blend some of that rate together, depending on how you have that set up, and can actually inflate that dock rate to much more than what it actually should be. The interesting thing is, or the nice thing I'd like to say is, you can come in here and you can manually change some of this stuff. So if you're looking at this and like, we've talked to the employee, we've agreed, we're not going to dock all 47 units. We'll dock 20 units this time. And then the next pay period, we'll dock another 20 units. That is not unusual to do that. So it's really kind of based on what it is that your district policy allows you to do. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and change that to 20, reduce his dock amount down to $262. Click OK. Once you've done setting up the docs that you want to have in here, and if you go in here and you see one, if you expect to see one that you don't have in here, for example, it's like, oh, I know Crystal Ball took a week off that she didn't have available to her, but I don't see her in my leave docking screen. It's not going to dock if it's not in this leave docking screen. So what you should do at this point, if you don't see somebody in here, that's when you're going to exit out, take a look. So I'm going to close my leave docking screen. And it's telling me that I haven't posted anything. So it's going to remind me to come back. So yeah, I will come back. So I'm going to go take a look at Crystal Ball, because I know I should have docked her. So where's my employee leave plans? I'll open up her discretionary. And I'm going to add a record in here. And just to look, let's say her balance is 29. So let's put used 35. Let's say 35 hours. I don't know. And then pay period 19 is from 3/7 to 3/20. So I'll put this from 3/7 to 3/11. Well, the granted date. So right now it is defaulting to the current date for the granted date. You want to make sure that the granted date falls within the pay period that you're working on. So if this pay period ends on 3/20, the granted date should not be any later than 3/20. So we'll do 3/11. Click OK. Click OK. Close this. And now I'll go back into payroll processing. And I'm going to go back into employee leave docking. And I should expect to see Crystal Ball now showing up in here. So now that I have her in here, and I'm going to take a look and I'll just verify. So, yep, I'm expecting 5.95 units to be docked. Dock amount, look at this dock rate though, $396.72 for a dock amount of $2,300. That's not correct. That would be an amazing docking rate. So her daily rate, $396. Okay. Oh, and she docked 5 days. Okay. That's right. That's right. For the sake of this, though, I am going to adjust this down and I'm just going to dock 1 day because I want to make sure she has money for other things that I'm going to do to her later. Okay. All right. So after you've calculated the leave docking and you have the information in here, one thing I do want to point out is one of those, and again, one of those things that I kind of learned again. There used to be, you would have to come in here and anytime it would only calculate the first time you came into this screen. That is not the case anymore. Every time you go into the leave docking screen, it will recalculate the leave docking for your employees. So you used to have to go up to actions and recalculate leave docking every single time you came in here. You don't have to do that anymore, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to leave that, but I'm going to go ahead and post my leave docking. So post all of my doc records. Do you wish to continue? Yes. Records have been successfully posted. So now if I go into the employee's leave plan, I'm going to see the adjustment for the doc on there, the automatic leave doc adjustment. And I'm also going to see that affecting her payroll journal for these positions. So I'll close that. Okay. So for the uninitiated, the next step is logically for the calculate payroll period or calculate the payroll period. Calculate the pay period. Correct? No, that is not the case. Especially if your district has garnishments, there's a step 3.5 that kind of slides in the middle of this that you need to make sure that you hit every time. This is regardless whether you think you need to be in there or whether you think these employees are actually getting paid on that pay period. There should always be that step 3.5. Congratulations, Kaylee, 3.5. Yes, I see the chat. I just now opened the chat. So, all right. So let me go back. I'm gonna go back and kind of look at the questions here really quick because when I went to share my screen, I lost my chat window, so I didn't see. What's open when so there are a couple messages. So if an employee has two positions, one is open, one is closed, but it comes with a combined rate, is there a way that it only pulls the open job on the docking window? No. The open and closed flag within employee positions does nothing. Nothing. The only thing it has any effect on is whether you have enough position FTE available to have that position exist in your position control. So if you have, let's say, one superintendent and you have budgeted FTE of one superintendent, the only way that you would ever get around that is you would have one superintendent that was a closed position and one superintendent that was an open position. And that's the only way. Open and closed affects nothing else. So the only way to get around that is you would have to remove the leave factor on that employee position, and that will eliminate it from the docking calculation when you go in there. So that's why we say only have a leave factor on the employee's main position. That way they won't, because it starts to combine that money to create that leave factor or create that docking calculation. So it gets very expensive very quick. Why is the docking rate different from the daily rate? So the docking rate should be identical to the daily rate. The only reason it would not be is if it was using a blended rate, if a person had multiple positions with the leave factors. It really should be the same. There are a couple options that I will not go into today that allows you to use a blended rate and kind of farm some of that stuff out. But for the main part, if you have a leave factor, it's on multiple positions. That's where you're going to get your different docking rate. All right. So back on track here, step 3.5. So if you have garnishments, and most everybody has garnishments in Maricopa County, years and years ago, we taught everybody how to do their own garnishments in the system and kind of put that information in there. So we're going to go up to actions, go down to open garnishment screen. And of course, it's down here. All right. So I'll click apply selection and see who has a garnishment. Of course, there's Crystal Ball. And Crystal Ball has a default student loan in here. And if I just open it up just to take a look, I'll make sure it's still active and everything. Right now, all things aside for default student, I totally realize that no federal student loans are coming out right now. So just pretend, if you're watching this on YouTube, pretend we've skipped ahead in time 2 months, 3 months. I think it's at the end of May is the current deadline for these to start back up again. Carrie, are you on there? Can you confirm? Somebody? I'm going to say the end of May.
She said yes. I think, I don't know that you can hear her.
I can. Okay, I can hear her back through your mic. All right. So the end of May. So right now, these are all inactive anyways. But for the sake of going through this, we're going to turn it on. And it is active. All the information is in there. So I'm going to go and click OK. And I'll go up to Actions. I will compute the garnishment for this pay period, for pay period 19. It says garnishments have been successfully computed. And then just like the leave docking screen, I have to go in here and I'll have to post the records for the garnishments. Garnishment records have been successfully posted. So now, if I close out of here, and just to take a look, I'm going to go to Employee Deductions and Benefits. And if I go to her default student loan, and I could see her calculated amount in here for her garnishment. So that's what was put in there. So I'm good with that. I'm going to go and click OK. Close out of here and go back into processing payroll. All right. So now I've accomplished step 3.5. And like I said, no matter what, just go through the motions. Very seldomly do you run into something that in Infinite Visions that has legal repercussions and can result in the district receiving a fine. That happens to be one of them. So just making sure you're going through the steps and you're doing what you need to do. We like to make sure that nobody has to pay any money that they don't already have to pay. After we're done here, we're going to go ahead and click Calculate Pay Period. And so it's going to ask me the 3 questions. And most everybody, it will default to this calculate employees who are not calculated. So this is, once an employee is calculated in the system, there's like sort of a little behind the scenes flag that says this person is done. For the example, our garnishment employee has already been calculated, so she does not need to be calculated again. I can choose the calculate employees who are not calculated, which is usually the catch-all, the easiest one to do. If you are, if you don't have any garnishments, or if you're doing something, if you've done a lot of changes, you may want to just do a calculate all. As for the calculate group, to be honest, I've never seen or heard anybody ever do this. I can't imagine the size of the district that you have to have in order for the calculate group to be actually something that you want to do. So in this case, I'm just going to leave it as calculate employees who are not calculated. Now click OK. All right. There are 17 position pay records that are ungenerated. How many of you people get this? I can't imagine that there's not a whole lot of districts out there that do not see this message at some point. So we'll take a look at this. We'll find out what's going on here. So there are supplemental pay records that are ungenerated. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now it's going to load me a report. There are DACs that have not finished entering hours. A list has been printed. Do you want to still calculate for your pay period? So we'll take a look at that, but we're going to go ahead and click on yes. Garnishments for this pay period have been posted. Cool. Click OK. This is a small district, so this is easy for us to kind of run through these really quick. All right. Ooh, there were errors when calculated. Employees being generated. That's awesome. So let's click OK and let's find out what's going on here. Pull up my report. So let's start with this one. All right, unlock deck. So I have a list of, so the district office deck, which there was probably no employee time cards in there, or actual time cards in there, came up flagged as there was no locked records, or we were missing records in there. If I expect that, then that's okay. That's okay. The other option is when I was in employee time card entries to pull up everybody for all time card types and just lock everybody. That is one way to do it. At least gets the system past the flag that you were expecting to get. So we can go in there, we could do that. Payroll calculation errors. Ooh, all right. So let's see. Stone Chip, employee deductions have exceeded pay, causing direct deposit net pay to be negative. So I can see in here all my deductions. This guy, I don't know what he did, but he is not getting paid enough for any of his deductions to come out. So we're going to have to take a look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and close my report here. Let's go into, I'll go into the employee maintenance payroll journal. So Stone, that's it. Payroll journal. Oh, lockout. How many people have seen this before and like, where the hell does this come from? It's a training database. I set it up on here. So let's talk about the payroll lockout. And I'll just read it to you. So a payroll is past the lockout step and it gives the time and the date, but not yet closed. You will be allowed to access this menu item in read only while payroll is in this condition. Please contact user me, Mike Martinez, for more information as to when you expect to able access this menu item normally. So the payroll lockout is a feature within the payroll processing or Infinite Visions payroll as a whole that allows you to keep people out of your system while you were in the process of running payroll. So let's go and click OK. And I don't want read only. So I'm going to exit out of here because I need to get rid of that lockout because I need to be able to do stuff. If I go into payroll configuration and then payroll default settings, right in the middle here is the payroll lockouts area. And you see the payroll lockout step is set to step 4, user Mike Martinez, which means I was the one that initiated the payroll lockout. So what the system did is after I hit step 4, which again was the pay period one, it locked people out of the other screens so that no one can go in and change deductions, change leave plans, change positions, change employee maintenance. All that stuff is completely locked out and allows you to not do anything. Now, if you have an office you have multiple people all working in these screens at the same time, this could be both good and bad. So if you're an HR or payroll person and you have issues with HR always going in and modifying stuff while you're running payroll, then this may be something you want to look at. There's 2 ways to clear this. By going into payroll default settings, I can click OK, and it will clear the lockout for me. Because we're going to go ahead and continue on, I'm actually going to zero out this lockout step and get rid of it altogether. That way I can kind of continue it unfettered throughout the rest of this. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, close that lockout step. And now let's go back into his payroll journal and see what's going on. And I'm going to show my detail. Click OK. Okay. So here's the problem with Mr. Chip Stone. I docked him 47 hours, $617, which is more money than he has available for him. So in essence, he's paying me to work for me, which is the best of any situation I could ever imagine as an employer, that employees come and work for you and then pay you to work for them. So unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of people that will let you get away with stuff like that. So what we need to do is we're going to go ahead and adjust his doc to make sure that he can get a check. So I'm going to close out of here. We'll go back into process payroll, and then I got to go back into employee leave docking. Actions, I have to unpost my leave docking records. And now I'm going to go into Chip and I'm going to dock him 1 hour. Then I will go ahead and post again. Records have been successfully posted. Cool beans. Close out of there. Go back into payroll processing. And again, you just continue on with the steps. So I'm going to go ahead and click calculate pay period again. Oh, I missed a step. I missed a step. I forgot 3.5. Remember, like I said, no matter what, you go through this step. Even if you're just going through the motions, you go through this step. It's better to recalculate it and have it be the exact same than to not calculate it or miss it and have it mess up. All right, so I'm going to go to actions, compute. And let's be honest, it doesn't take that much time to do it. I know you're in a rush, and I know it's late Thursday night or late Friday night. You want to get out the door, but you don't want to be that person. Calculate and post garnishment records. All right. Now I'm going to do calculate for. Calculate employee who is not calculated. There are 17 positions supplementals. I forgot to look at that. So let's take a look at that really quick. Yeah, that was the unlocked DAC. That's okay. Garnishments have been posted. All right. So now I'm concerned. So we had 17 items that came up as uncalculated positions. So I'm going to go into employee positions and pay. And there is a button on here, ungenerated, right here in the middle. There's a little checkbox here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on ungenerated, click apply selection. And in here, here's my 17 records. So all these items in here are not generated, like they exist, but they haven't been generated. But if you look at the name on them, they're almost all blank, and that is perfectly fine. I expect that to happen. These are positions that I have out there that I haven't been able to get filled yet. So, or maybe they haven't been assigned, or maybe they're just template. Like you see, I have some templates on here as well. So those are items that will appear on that ungenerated report, and that's perfectly fine. What you do want to look for is for those items that actually have people in it. You want to review these positions and make sure that one, should they be getting paid? And if so, then why are they not showing up on the payroll, or why have their positions not been generated? So if I just pop into, of course, it's got to be crystal ball because this lady always causing issues. And I'll look at here. So she's on is a 12-month salary calendar, full year, everything. It's got no dollars. So calculated no dollars, but we haven't paid anything on it. So this is some sort of performance stipend that we've created, but we've not yet put any money in. And I'm okay with that just sitting there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on cancel. And I know that my 17 ungenerated positions are not going to be a big deal for me. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. But again, if you have a lot in there, just go in there and verify is there people in there that you need to be paid, and then fix them. All right. Next is the print pre-payroll reports. I wish much pain upon the person who decided to title this one. All right. So we're going to click on number 5 here. And reports, and to be honest, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of reports here because the reports they're going to be reports. A lot of them you can print from within the payroll processing screen. There's a pre-payroll reports. You print reports after the pay period. Either one, whatever works for you. The one thing that I do want to point out is there's one report in here that a lot of districts rely on that may not be accurate if you run it at this step in the game. So this labor summary report right here, if I click this labor summary report, the system will allow me to print it. but there exists the possibility that the labor summary report may not be accurate for your pay period if you're running it before you close the pay period and it's posted to the GL. So in that case, I would skip over this entirely. I mean, if you want to look at it just to kind of review information, but as far as your payroll record that you want to keep, maybe you print it out or you save it somewhere and you have somebody review it. Wait until after your payroll has been closed before you run that pay period report. And the funny thing is, it's in here and it literally says in the help for this screen, the print labor summary report may not be accurate depending on certain situations. So should it be in there? I would say no. I would print that after your pay period is closed in all instances. So I'll click OK. I don't need to print anything at all. I can have everything unchecked and just click OK and just marks the box. My reports have been run successfully, regardless of the fact that I haven't run any reports. So, all right. Next item, closing the pay period. So I'm going to make sure I'm going to go ahead and click this up. There are DACs that have not finished hours, so I'm getting that same thing. I'm okay with that. So I'm going to go and click OK. Do I want to close the pay period? Payroll checks will be generated with follow message. I can put a message in there. I can pick a voucher number for there. By default, I just leave the voucher number as 0 and let the system auto assign a voucher number. I know some districts are particular about which voucher numbers they want to have. It's entirely up to you. I can click the little ellipses here and it will show me the number of the vouchers. Payroll vouchers will typically be under 100, 99 or less. So it just kind of numbers them up. And if you're lucky, they kind of match what your pay periods are. So pay period 1 is voucher 1, pay period 2 is voucher 2. But once you do your first off cycle, everything is screwed up after that. And so it's totally, you can't use it for anything. So at that point, I just let it number itself. It's not going to hurt anything. To be honest, nobody cares what the voucher number it is until it's paid and until it's in the GL somewhere. No one cares what the voucher number is. So go ahead and click cancel and you put any payroll message you want in there. I just put hi because I'm friendly. All right, click OK. And here's my unlocked DAX reports again that I close. All right, so what does the closed pay period do actually? So first of all, it checks to make sure that if there were any approvals that needed to be done for things like time cards and positions and PARs, and make sure all of that items are done. Not a whole lot of districts will use the payroll approval queue that we've worked with, but it does exist. So there is a payroll approval queue where you do like time cards and things like that. So it checks to make sure that those are done. It checks to make sure that no one is getting any negative pay at all. So regardless of what happened in a calculated pay period, it does one more check to make sure no one gets any negative paychecks. It checks to make sure that there's no warnings on employee deductions. There's no weirdness going on where a deduction has gone negative for some reason. In some cases, that's okay, depending on what you're trying to do, but it is going to flag you because that's unusual. It sets the payroll voucher number. It also sets the last pay date in the employee maintenance record. So if I went into employee maintenance right now, I would see that the last pay date is going to be this 3/29 date that is from the pay period. So this is the point where it kind of sets that information. It also updates the employee deduction history and it updates the employee pay history within the position itself. So at this point, those steps are done in the system and it kind of starts to lock those things down as much as you can lock any one of these steps down. Okay, moving on to the generate direct deposits pay states. So I'm going to go ahead and click this button. And it's going to generate all the direct deposit information for my district. So it'll look at all the routing numbers, all the account numbers, and put those. It doesn't check them for accuracy at all. There's no accuracy checking whatsoever. You can have zeros in there for account numbers and zeros in there for the routing numbers, and we'll absolutely let you generate an ACH file or routing information for that, or bank direct deposit information for that employee. It's not going to stop you. That is going to be on you to kind of double check. The other thing that this does is this is the step that actually updates the employee year-to-date accumulation. Now that the pay period has been closed and the direct deposits have been done, It's going to go into the system and it will update the employee's year-to-date accumulations. So as far as like W-2 type stuff is concerned, this is the point where that portion is done. So it's telling me I've generated 29 direct deposit receipts. This is one of those steps, and this is a little side note for those districts that we directly host, or those districts that we run checks for and print direct deposits for. This is the step where your direct deposits are now available to our county office to send off to the bank. So this is the big number one reason when our office says do not post vouchers before 9 a.m. This is the number one reason for that, because what happens if you decide to be the early bird and you decide to go in and start, well, you know what, I'm going to run it first thing Thursday morning when I get into the office. You come in here, the moment you're past step 7, our system picks that up and sends that off to the bank. Doesn't matter that you later backed it off or you did a reset steps or you decided that you weren't going to finish it till the afternoon. We've already sent that to the bank. It's out the door and no one's caught it, because there's no reason to flag that as separate from anything other than the fact that it's all direct deposits. Our system just picks that up for you. So this is the reason why we say do not post vouchers before 9 a.m. to make sure we have enough time to import everything that needs to be imported. If you're not hosted by us or we don't print your checks or send off your direct deposits, not a big deal, but just keep in mind that for us, that's kind of a stickler. So click OK. All right, moving on to post GL. What does this button do? If I go and click this button, it really only does one thing. It creates a journal entry, and that's it. That it does nothing else. There's nothing else that goes on whatsoever. It just creates the journal entry. So it's going to pop this journal entry up here. I know some people like to print it out or do whatever. You really don't even bother. The printout is not the record. The fact that the journal entry exists in your system is the record. And unless you really kind of want to dig into this information, there's not a whole lot of information in here that's useful outside of the accounting world. So what it breaks down to is going to credit the liabilities for everything that you have, all your deductions, all your employee pay, and it will debit the expense. So it does the first half of a payroll journal entry for your system. And when I say first half, it's really kind of split into 2 sections. So you have your first half, which does your liability and expense. And then you have your second half, which will do your expense and your cash. That'll happen at the end when you either run your payroll checks, or if you use the county general ledger, your stuff goes through a county general ledger and use that ASCII voucher file. When you post that back into your system, it does the cash and the expense entry. If you do the check manager version, it will do that. Will do your cash and your expense entry. So this is the first half of that. So if your business manager or your finance person or your accounting person went and looked in there and they're like, hey, what's going on with this? Well, your answer is well, I'm not done. You got to wait till I'm done. And then you can look at my journal entries. Then you can look at the finances. Because right now you're only getting half the snapshot. But that's what's going on here. And if you kind of look there, it does break it down by every account. And to be honest, no real discernible order whatsoever. I don't know what order they put these items in here, but they're really just kind of scattered all out there. And if I go all the way down to the bottom, it'll give me a grand total of the amounts. And I will see it all balance out perfectly. It's always going to balance out perfectly. It's never not going to balance out perfectly. And then you can do with this what you will. We'll close this. And then the last of step 9 is to create the deduction invoices. So if I click this button here, what this portion does is all the invoices that are associated with your payroll, all the deduction invoices. So all the vendor invoices for your state retirement, for your federal taxes, which are probably, actually, let's be honest, they're probably your district anyway, because you're going to turn around and deposit those in your own revolving account so you can pay them online. But things like your health insurance, your trust, all your deductions, anything like that, all those invoices are going to be generated for you. And to tell you deduction, there's really not a whole lot to it. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm just going to take a peek at the deduction invoices. And it's still, I know that not a whole lot of people go into the screen. To be honest, there's not a whole lot of reason to go into the screen. with the exception if you're working with a garnishment and you have some OCL issues going on and you have to suspend some stuff. A lot of people don't go into screen, but it does exist. So right under process payroll, there is an option for invoice processing. And if I go in here and just hit apply selection, I will see all the items that aren't on the voucher. And if I scroll over here, it will tell me which pay period it's from. So I'm going to do filter by selection. So I just see my pay period 19. And these are all the deduction invoices for my particular payroll. And it will bundle them up by vendor. So if I have multiple deductions that go to one vendor, it will generate one check, just like it does in accounts payable. So for example, if I'm going to sort this, so all these items, so these two invoices here for ACR, classified, and classified will get into one check. Oh, that should be certified. Should be certified in there. I'm missing a deduction. Okay. And then my FICA and federal tax, all those are going to be into one check because they're on the same vendor. And it all just kind of bundles this information up for you. You can come in here. You can suspend items if you don't want to send them off. You can create manual invoices in here for some reason you need to make an adjustment. So there's lots of options of what you can do in the screen if you need to do that. Do not go in there and do it all willy-nilly or whatever. Go in there with a reason to do it. It's easy enough to fix, but it's always better if you don't mess it up the first time. So just be very careful about what you're doing when you go in there. So I'm going to go ahead and close invoice processing. All right, once I've done that and I've taken a look at invoice processing, I didn't need to go in there. There wasn't anything special. Go into payroll voucher processing, and it will add a new voucher. It automatically selects all the items that I just generated for that paper. Well, it automatically puts all those items in here. I'm going to actions and select all. I forgot a bank account. Actions and select all. I'm not going to bother with a voucher number. I'll just let it auto number, whatever. Again, voucher numbers don't matter to me. And other than, hey, you're going to put a range of vouchers on your board agenda for what they're going to authorize for you, they really don't matter. So I'll just go ahead and select them all. Click OK. Voucher number 1019 has been assigned. I will write that down somewhere. If you were watching Jill's little quarterly reporting thing from last week, there's little cheat sheets that you can get where you can kind of write down some of this information. So I believe the voucher numbers are on there as well. So if you when you're running your payroll on some of those cheat sheets. So I'll go and click OK. Pending, go up to actions. Now there's an option to print report on here. And I'm going to go ahead and select this option, and it will have certain things in here. And again, certain things are more useful than others, and certain things you're able to print someplace else. Like for example, the cover page, I'm going to take the cover page out of the check manager. If you don't use the check manager, if you use the ASCII voucher file, you're going to want to print the cover page here. So that's an option. And it will show just the 1019 or just the one voucher that I'm going to be printing out here for the deduction voucher. I can show the detail listing, customer voucher, your standard reports. For me, there's not anything of any use in here that I can't get from the check manager, because that's where I'm going to do my processing yet. So I'm just going to leave all these blank. I'm not going to bother printing any of these reports. It's all there. Actions and process. All right. So now my voucher is prepped. And I got to be honest, I mess this up every time versus prepped versus pending. That is the worst naming convention ever. If it's prepped, is it really pending, or is it pending if it's, I don't know, but that's just what Tyler chose at some point. I'm done with that. All right, going back into my system here. Now, for most of you, you will go into your general ledger and you will go into your check manager, banking check manager, go up to actions, and I will do print PR employee checks. Now, I don't have any check vouchers in here. I think this voucher is entirely direct deposit, in which case there is not going to be an employee voucher in here. And that is absolutely okay. You have to know it though. If you come in here and it's missing and you're expecting a physical check to be popping out, you've done something wrong at this point. So in this case, I don't have an employee voucher. If I had thought about that if I had thought about it in advance, I would have turned off direct deposit for at least one person. So, but I did. So I'll cancel out of here. Actions, print PR deduction checks. And there's my one voucher. Select it, click OK. This will post voucher 1019. Do you wish to continue? Heck yeah. Let's pay these people. It's beer 30 already. We'll give it a minute. All right. So here's all my information. You can see there's my giant direct deposit check. This is where I will get reports that I actually want. Things like the cover page, things like a check listing. Those are the items that are important to me. If you work with our office or any county superintendent's office, the cover page is the only one that's actually statutorily required to send in. So, and it has to be signed. There's no statutory requirement to send in a blank cover page. As long as they are aware or work with that office, whatever they happen to dictate are their needs, but statutorily the signed cover page is the only thing required to send to the board or to send to the county superintendent's office. So I will go ahead and print that out because I know I'm going to have my board sign off on it, or I have a board policy that has authorized a certain blanket of voucher numbers and I can stamp them. Whichever works for you and your county office, that works for me. For our office, the only report that we ever ask for anymore, and this changed, this was as of January, we decided to cut down our requirements for this, is just send us the signed cover page. We really don't want anything else at all. It's really just a waste of paper and a waste of time. There are certain things we can look at already without a need for the report. And there are certain things that are just, there's absolutely no use for a blank cover page. It's no value whatsoever. So just send the signed one when you're ready. So I'll go and do the signed cover page and I'll run my voucher reports. And it'll be the generic cover page. And it doesn't even need to be this cover page. This is an example cover page. So if you're like, I know there's at least one or two districts that have sort of a custom cover page that they use for their vouchers. That's entirely fine. The language, the language is similar, or to the extent that it is statutory required is in there, and has all the information that we need, or that the office needs, or the board needs. As long as that information is there, it's fine. But the canned one out of the system is pretty good. And if you don't need to, there's no reason to regenerate or reinvent the wheel for that. And once I've done all that, and if I was a pilot district or county responsibility district, I would go ahead and load my check stock, print my checks, do everything I need to do, and then go ahead and click OK. At this point, and it already says, yeah, I wish to continue. At this point, what's been done is that last journal entry has been done, where it hits the cash and it hits the expense, closing out the rest of your payroll, and then everything's done. And the system has processed everything that's going to process. That's it. And this took actually probably about 20 minutes longer than I thought it was going to take. But essentially, that is your steps 1 through 9 with a little extra added in at the end. But that is sort of the core as to what the system is doing as you go through this process. Like I said, this is foundational. We just want you to have a clear understanding of what buttons you're clicking on and what the system is doing as you're going through these processes. That way we have the opportunity to build on these little knowledge steps later. So when we're like, oh yeah, I remember this happens in step 4, or this happens in step 5, I can expect to see that here. So look for more mini sessions later on in the year and in the coming months, kind of talking about payroll topics. But this is sort of, if this was a college, this would be the prerequisite for all that stuff, so that you guys understand. So at this point, I'll go ahead and open it up for questions. If anyone had any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or you put it in the chat. And I see Jill's kind of been answering some questions, so thank you. Yes, and so Jocelyn had asked a question. She has a composite rate factor in 2 positions, but it only docks on 1 position. That's going to have to be a manual adjustment. At that point, the system does not have, for some reason, you can split time and time entry. You can split time and time entry all the way out to specific account codes and specific positions. But when you dock money, when you take that money away, it doesn't allow you any sort of that functionality. It's either you do it or you don't. But I would totally put that. That's a Tyler community thing. I would totally ask for that. I could see a lot of justification for that, to be able to spread that out within the leave docking screen. It should be in the leave docking screen. I have employees that have quit, so have unchecked issue paycheck. Cool. I get a warning when I process payroll. What do I need to do for these employees to stop getting the warning? Okay, so issue paycheck is not the end all of getting rid of employees off of your payroll. You actually have to go into employee positions and pay and end those positions. Because remember that screen that we went into earlier when we talked about ungenerated positions and things like that? It's very similar to that, because just by clicking issue paycheck, it prevents the employee from getting paid, but it doesn't prevent the position from getting generated, or present the position from looking as though it's going to get paid. So what I'm talking about, if I close out, go into employee positions. And this actually happens quite a lot. Yes, John. And I'm just going to apply selection. I don't have that many people. So let's say Crystal Ball. Let's pick on her. Superintendent of nothingness. All right. So let's say Crystal Ball walked off the job. You had a scruff with her, or you went all Will Smith on her, and suddenly she's walked out the door, right? So you have to go beyond issue paycheck. You actually have to end the position. So coming into the pay tab on here, so all right, what's the date today? So it's 3/28. She walked off the position. So I need to change this position end date to 3/28. I need to change this position pay period end to match that position end date, which is going to be right in here. Then I will go ahead and click OK. Because let me cancel on it. So right now, I see that this position is still generated all the way through to pay period 26. Issue paycheck does not remove these records in here. That's what you're seeing when payroll pops up. So by changing her position end date and changing her position ending pay period, I click OK. Yep, it's gonna remove all the payroll journals for unlocked pay period. It's telling me blah, blah, blah. That's fine. This is how you end the position. And you have to do this for all this employee's positions. Go in there and you put in the end date. You go in there and you put in the pay period end date to match it. And then after you've done that, then you have to go to the employee payroll journal, and you should recompute the entire year for that particular employee. So in this position, so I'm going to go back into employee maintenance, pull up Miss Crystal Ball. Actions payroll journal. And I'm going to actions and compute all year. When you close it out in the position, that removes the employee's pay journals. So the employee's pay is gone. Poof, it's gone. But until you do a compute all year, the employee's deduction journals remain out there, especially for those employer sides. So all the, your Medicare, your Social Security, your insurance deduction, all those encumbrances for your employee paid deductions remain until you do this compute all year. So I'm going to do a compute all year. I'm not going to do it right now. I honestly don't know how long it's going to take with this person. So I'm just going to leave it. But you come in here and do a compute all year. At that point, that's when you're done, and you should stop seeing them pop up. So that's what's going on there. And yes, Jill, correct. Thank you. As a best practice, and it's really, you may have to do this more or less, really kind of depends on how often your payroll or your staff is turning over at your district. You really should do a compute all year on a once monthly basis. And when I say do it all year, do it for everybody. So you go into process payroll, there is an option in here. It says compute selected periods. And it will show you all the unposted pay periods for the remainder of the year. Select them all, click OK, and then go grab yourself a sandwich. What this will do is this will calculate all the employer side deductions for the remainder of the year, and it will just kind of go through one by one by one by one. At the beginning of the year, this is going to take a while. I mean, this could take like hours. This is I walked out the door on Friday, I came back on Monday, and it was still running type of thing sometimes. So you may have to just do a few pay periods at a time, but you definitely should be running all of them, like I said, about monthly is probably a good batch to do. Let's see, during payroll process, you have department stacks with unlocked records. Do you wish to concede? Okay, so we had the same thing. We had the same thing, Tracy. So we had the district office that kept popping up. So let's go back. And I don't know what's going to let me see because we kind of, let's see, attendance, employee time card entry. And I'm coming here. So here's my pay period. Yeah, I already posted this paper. Let's go to 20. All right, so here's all my time card employees for pay period 20. So if I actions, I lock these records. But I'm going to clear my selection. I'm going to change my pay method to all. Hit apply selection. So now you see I have unlocked records in here again, because these are within the district office stack, which is the one I kept getting on the report. They are unlocked, but they are salaries. So they're not really a time card employee to begin with. However, there does exist a time card record for them. Whether you use it or not, it really doesn't matter. The fact that the system recognizes it as unlocked at this point. So if I select pay method all, and I go to actions and I do lock records again, that's when it's going to lock all these records. And at that point, that DAC will stop showing up on that report that keeps coming. So that's what was happening. The one more thing I wanted to touch on really quick. Nobody ever goes through payroll and runs it through the first time. Nobody. Don't worry about it. You think it's just you. It's not just you. But there is an option on here. If this was an unposted pay period, there is an option to reset steps. When you reset steps, the only thing I want to make you aware of is that the accrue leave option in here only works the first time that you actually accrue leave. So if you go in and you mess with somebody's leave plans or something, and then you come back and you kind of run through a step, it will tell you, say, you've already accrued leave for this pay period. We're not doing it again, and we're going to keep on going on. What you have to do is there is an option in here to delete leave accrual. After you reset steps, you should delete your leave accrual and then go through the process. So do not forget this, especially if the reason for it is you are messing with leave plans. Just make sure you delete those leave accruals before you go through it. Question, is it best practice to wait until the end of the year to archive inactive employees? So best practice is that they are no longer have any fiscal to date or calendar to date earnings. So if you went into the employee year to date accumulations and you went on January 6th, no, that's a horrible date. Let's try it. Let's say you went in January 12th. All right. You went in January 12th. Is there any calendar to date earnings, which in next year would be 2023? If that's zero, okay, pass step one. Is there any fiscal to date earnings? All right. So you know that's going to go back to July of 2022. If that's zero, then you're good to go. At that point, archive them after you've done W-2s. Always wait till after you do W-2s. Good question. Thank you. That actually comes up every single year. So when can I archive employees? I like to go to it as if you haven't done your cleanup in a long time, I actually like to go into employee maintenance, just pull up everybody in the grid and employee maintenance, and then look at the last pay date on those employees. First of all, if it's blank, archive that person immediately unless they're a new employee. The last pay date, I think, was probably implemented something like 8 years ago. So if it's blank, they're either brand new and haven't been paid yet, or they haven't been paid there in so long that that field didn't even exist when they worked here. Those are people you can get rid of easily. Archive those guys. Now, if you have people that haven't been paid in, a year or two or a couple of years, archive those guys as well, unless you know that they're going to become that. Sometimes subs, we'll take a year off or something like that and then come back. Sometimes you just can't get rid of people. I like to say no one ever retires from like school finance. They just keep working or they work somewhere else. You know who you are. You know who you are. All right, good questions. Anything else? When we suspend an invoice for garnishments, we now get a message that says, do you want to clear the screen? Is it best to say yes? Not sure I know what message you're talking about. So you would be in invoice processing. All right, hold on. We'll click on this, view, close all but this. I had too many windows open. This again, and we kind of touched this, I think in the user group meeting, the ease meeting, we kind of touched on this. Periodically close all these windows and then reopen them if you need them, because they do remain static. So if you're in employee deductions, the data that it pulls for employee deductions is kind of stuck there until you close it and go back in there. So I'm gonna close everything. So let's go into invoice processing. All right, so back in time, this is our first time coming here. So if we go into, we did have a garnishment deduction here. So let's suspend this. So we'll actions, suspend. This will suspend the selected invoices. Do you wish to proceed? Yes. And then it's suspended. So I'm not sure what message you were getting.
Hi, Mike, it's Chris. I don't know if you can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, so it's actually when I copy and suspend, because you know how you have to, like, if there's multiple
Yes,
people
if
on
you need to
it.
split it.
Yeah, that's when I'm getting the message.
Okay, so let's try that. So
And it's causing a problem when we're doing print checks. And they told us that this is why. And so I'm trying to figure out like the best process on it.
Copy. So there's my copy. And then it's all, well, I think it's already suspended. Friday can have it. All right, let's just put something in there.
That's it. That's the message.
Do you wish to clear the screen before entering the next invoice?
So I've been saying no because I've been nervous about what happens if I say yes. And
Well, let's hit yes then. See what it does.
It just assumes, Chris, it's assuming that when you do a copy, you're kind of going into a manual entering of an invoice. And part of the process when you manually enter invoices is the ability to keep going one right after the other. So it assumes, since you made a copy, that you're in the manual entry mode. And are you going to continue?
That really sounds like a bug, because that's more like that. That's really
On the
should
other
really
side,
be only
AP.
an AP side thing. I
Right,
mean,
right.
there's not even an option. I mean, if we looked in there when I opened it up, there wasn't even an option to close this dialog after update. It's
Yeah.
just grayed out. So why would it ever ask me if I wanted to clear the screen again? Great questions this morning. Thank you guys for being so active participants this time around. Always makes it more fun. Okay. With that, it is 11:20 and I can see based off of the camera, it's almost Jeff's lunchtime. He starts to get a little hangry. So I'll make sure that we kind of wrap this up. Thank you everybody for joining us today. If you can think of any more questions as you go along, or have an idea of what you want to see next, or what you kind of, where you want us to kind of dive deep into next time, we're happy to know it. We have some topics that we want to do, but if there's something that important comes up that you guys want to see us do, then put it out there. Let us know, send us an email, and we'd be happy to help you out. As always, if you need any assistance, you can email any one of us, or you can send an email to fss@maricopa.gov. That's Financial System Support at maricopa.gov. And that is sort of a group shared email inbox. So if you have any questions, we'll be happy to get back to you, and we'll help you out in any way that we can. All right, everybody. Again, I apologize for having a Monday morning meeting. I hope none of you fell asleep on this. Don't worry, I'll have the video up within a day or two, and we'll have this out on the YouTubes for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week and have a great Monday morning. Thank you.